Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Adonis podcast. You'll notice I'm not live on Kick this time, and that is because Kick fucked shit up. So basically, this might have had something to do with their update, but all I know is that I went live on Kick, and the camera was on, and when the stream ended, you could not see my face. It was just a black screen. But this is not the first time that Kick has given me issues. I've been having issues with them, so I just said, you know what, fuck y'all. If y'all can't produce quality content, then I'ma just take my business elsewhere. Alright, so let's dive into today's episode. Sally Grace recently blocked me, so for those of you who have been keeping up with my content, you know that Sally Grace and I have been having a miniature feud. Basically, I've spoken about her before and I've called her out for her hypocrisy. Primarily, the fact that she claims that she is proof that she's not proof, that you don't need to show off your body to get followers, yet she does exactly that. She's also a giant pick-me girl and does not ladylike at all. For example, blowing snot onto the ground of a skate park and recording herself while doing it and smiling for Instagram views. It's just fucking retarded. She tried to clap back by posting me on her page and saying, just admit that you're a fan, to which I responded that if I woke up tomorrow as Sally Grace, the first thing I would do is kill myself. Now, a lot of her fans actually called her out for this because here's the thing. In the video of me that's on her page, she did not tag me. She didn't state who I was, and people called her out. You know, you should at least credit the guy for his work. And so I got in the comments to let people know, like, that's me. Like, if you're interested in seeing more of my content, you can go to my page, you can listen to my podcast, whatever. This cunt proceeds to then block me so that people can't see my comments on her video. Because she is a snake trying to hog the fame all for herself. This is basically what's going on is she doesn't want people to see my content or listen to my podcast, which is why she didn't tag me, and that's why she blocked me. She wants to use me and the things that I say about her to make herself famous while keeping me in the dark because she is a fucking snake. So yeah, she blocked me while still leaving my video on her timeline, which might I add is the highest performing video she has on there right now because she doesn't want people to know who I am or what I do or what I'm about. But she wants to use me to make herself more famous than she already is. Which proves my point that she's an attention whore just on here begging for views. She's an attention whore, pick me girl. She's just, I can't fucking stand that hoe. She also did a video mocking Andrew Tate. So recently she interviewed him, which is primarily where the beef started because I ridiculed her for doing a really bad interview on Andrew Tate. Guys, Andrew Tate was at this UFC boxing event. Sally asked him for his interview. You can tell Tate's in a rush. He said, yes, last interview. She starts off with some dumbass questions. So who are we here with today? Oh, you know, I'm a very humble guy. Wow, the accent is strong. Bruh, this is the worst Andrew Tate video I've ever seen. And I've seen quite a few of them. This is the worst Andrew Tate interview I have ever seen in my life. This hoe is beyond, she is stupid beyond physical human comprehension. So yeah, that was an awful interview. And then she made a video trying to mock him for his accent too, which by the way, Tate doesn't have an accent. She's trying to say that, oh, he has a very strong British accent. No, he doesn't. He sounds American. He has a very strong voice. He has a very powerful voice. But that guy does not sound British at all. You know what British people sound like? British people basically sound like toddlers who don't know how to pronounce their words. Hey, mate, how goes it today? They can't say the letter R like a retard. So instead of saying retard, they probably say E-O. That blouse is our E-O. Like, they can't fucking pronounce their words. That's what British people sound like, bro. Andrew Tate does not sound British at all. Also, in recent news, David is now officially behind bars. Yes, the David who sang the song Feel It for this TV series Invincible. He is now behind bars permanently. Apparently, he had sexual relations with an underage teenage girl, and she basically dumped him. And when she decided that she was no longer interested in David, he cut up her body Dexter style and murdered her and stuffed the body in his trunk. And you want to know how he got caught? Apparently, he made an unreleased song about it. Bro, what is it with rappers making music where they confess to their fucking crimes? I don't get it. But anyway, the police caught him. He's now behind bars, and he's now on death row. It's most likely that he's going to get the death penalty. And then, of course, there's people defending him in his name. To be fair, I'd like to clarify, I don't know what is or what is not true, because I haven't seen any proof. I haven't seen documentation. I haven't seen any evidence, any of this stuff. I'm just repeating what I've heard online and what I've heard on the news. So for all I know, it could be, the whole situation could be completely false, but that's what I'm hearing. So the concepts of today's episode is going to be internal reputation versus external reputation. Your internal reputation is basically your character, how people who interact with you, who know you, who see you on a consistent basis, how they know you. Your external reputation is basically your reputation as a whole, how strangers see you, how society sees you. View it this way, your character or your internal reputation is who you are, while your external reputation, or simply your reputation, is who people say you are. And the first one, that being your character or your internal reputation, is far more important than your external reputation, because it directly reflects on who you are. Your reputation, you could spend years building, and some faggot can make up a rumor about you online that's completely false and ruin it in seconds. Or you can make a mistake, as we all do, because we're all humans, and ruin it in seconds. Matter of fact, I've stated on here several times that I do not care about reputation or a person's reputation, but I care more so about their character, or in this instance, their internal reputation. Because I can tell you from firsthand experience that you could be the best person in the world, you could have good intentions. Somebody who doesn't like you or wants to ruin your life just for the fun of it can squander your reputation in seconds, and you'll never have the same reputation again. And I like to base things off of my own experience and not off of the opinions of other people. That being said, an external reputation is still important to a degree. For example, if you're going to do business with somebody, you're going to want to do someone who's reputable, who's trustworthy. You're going to do business with someone who delivers, who treats your customers well, versus someone who's not reputable, is known for lying, is known for cheating, is known to be a scam artist, those kind of things. So it is important to a degree. However, the internal reputation is far more important than the external reputation. And people tend to do this ass backwards. They tend to care more about their external reputation. For example, have you ever worked for a company, because I know I have, where they care so much about their external reputation that they mistreat their employees and they don't care about their internal reputation? People who care too much about their external reputation often have something to hide. They often put too much stress and pressure on themselves, and they don't allow themselves to grow because they allow the opinions of others to control them. When you allow, one thing is taking positive feedback and necessary constructive criticism. Another thing is to genuinely care what other people who do not live your life, who are not in your position, who have not suffered like you have suffered, who are not in your shoes, to care what they think about you. And I'll use this example. And to clarify, I am not using this example to shame these people. I have a genuine respect for these people. But I recently had plans to collab with some other podcasters. We had been in contact for a little over 2 weeks, ironing out the details of a collab. I was supposed to go on their podcast, and we were going over the guidelines. The last two things to do were to make the announcements and then basically do the podcast. They put me in charge of making the announcement, so I went out of my way to make a flyer and announce that we were going to be collabing soon. I put out the flyer, and they backed out afterwards because of my recent online feud with Mari. they no longer want to collab with me because they're afraid of the bad press. They're afraid that, basically that by them associating themselves with me, it's going to make it look bad on them. And I understand that you need to protect your reputation to a degree. I think there's a lot of people that overdo it, but I understand that it's human nature to be liked. I understand that it is necessary to be at least somewhat liked if you want to be reputable and work with other people. So I understand where they're coming from, but their internal reputation is where they fucked up. So this is where I'm going to get into it. If you go to my bio on any social media platform, be it X, Facebook, Instagram, my bio is the same. Host of the Adonis podcast, student of the real world, Republican political debater. That last one there should already tell you what you need to know. The fact that I'm involved in politics, have taken a strong stance on one side, and I like to debate people, that right there should tell you this guy probably gets into some heated discussions all the time. That being said, there are other instances where I get into shit that's not necessarily political because I have a tendency to go after people who are liars, and I like to expose the truth. That being said, when people are caught in a lie or when they're doing something that they would rather be kept private, they're not going to be happy when someone like myself comes along and exposes them. They're naturally going to hate me for it, and it creates a lot of tension. That's what happened in my last episode, and it became this whole thing. It became a whole feud online. And the podcaster said, well, you seem to be having a lot of problems with people, and we don't want to be associated with that. I always have problems with people. This is not the first time, and it's not going to be the last. And that tells me that they didn't do their research properly or thoroughly, because if you go back and listen to previous episodes, you'll notice a common thread, and that common thread is I regularly have to fight people, whether it's because it's someone coming after me because of my beliefs, or because I'm exposing something and it becomes a whole situation that boils over. This situation that happened in the last episode is basically the same shit, different person. What bothered me the most is the fact that they waited so long to call out. Because when they emailed me and they had mentioned that they watched my podcast and they enjoyed my content, I assumed that they're well aware that I do on occasion fight with people online. When we were ironing out the final details of the collab, I was in the middle of the whole Mari feud. That feud lasted about 3 days, and within that period of time, I was talking to them, ironing out the details, ironing out the specifics, podcast topics, things of that nature. So I had emailed them one night about the final details. They told me to go ahead and post the flyer. I said, okay, I'm going to post it within the next few days because I had other projects I was working on I needed to complete first. As soon as I completed those projects, which was the next day, the following day, I went ahead and posted the flyer. I tagged them. They messaged me, said, actually, we're going to go ahead and back out because you're having problems with people and we need to make sure that we're mindful of who we associate with. That I get. There are certain people that I wouldn't collaborate with. Like, I would never collab with someone like Jack Doherty or Aiden Ross or some of these other idiots or Neon. And it's not because I don't want other people to think I'm an idiot. It's because I genuinely just don't like them. So I understand why they did what they did, but I don't agree with how they did it. Because first of all, if you did your research, you would have realized that if you're the kind of people who's trying to keep a positive reputation at all times, no matter what, you would have realized that I'm not the kind of guy to bring on the podcast. Number two, you had all this time, and instead of being upfront and honest with me and informing me beforehand, you waited until the last second. Like, you waited for me to make the announcement. Like, the previous day, mind you, I'm in the middle of a feud, okay? That has nothing to do with them, by the way. It has nothing to do with them or their podcast whatsoever. I'm in the middle of this feud. We're going back and forth. I'm also at the same time talking to these guys about our collab. They said, go ahead and post a flyer. The next day, right after the feud ends, I post a flyer. Then they say, actually, you have too many problems with people, we're not going to do it. Now, this is where the internal reputation comes into play. Because there's the reputation they have in the outside world, right? People who view the podcast, who don't interact with them, who don't know anything about them personally. And then the internal reputation is how people like myself perceive them, who've actually had direct contact with them, who have spoken to them directly. If someone were to come to me and say, hey, I've spoken with these guys, they say that they want to do a collab, and I understand that you try to work with them. What's your opinion? Should I or should I not work with them? You want to know what I would tell them? Honestly, I would tell them, don't work with them. They have a great podcast. They talk about great subjects. They're entertaining, but they flaked on me last minute. They weren't upfront and honest about everything. They flaked last minute about a situation that had nothing to do with them. And they had all this time beforehand to let me know, hey, we're having second thoughts. Another thing is when you allow other people to think badly of you, you're allowing them to control you. They care about their reputation, and that's why they call down the collab, because they wanted to maintain a general positive audience. But when you're in the spotlight, especially the more and more popular you get, you're going to get hate no matter what you do. It's just the nature of life. The last podcast episode that I released got me 200 followers in one day. And I wasn't even trying to get followers or go viral. I posted that episode because I was doing what I always do, which was exposing people for who they really are. I was also striking back at this person and getting revenge in a sense, because we had previous issues beforehand that needed to be addressed. And so this was my way of publicly clapping back at her. And then I clipped it for Instagram, because that's what I do for all of my content, is I clip my podcast episode and then I post it so that other people can see it. It's a form of advertisement. It's not necessarily for views. I wasn't trying to start drama to get views, and I want to clarify that. And I think that's why a lot of people like my content, is because they see these dumbasses like Neon and Clavicular and Baby Alien. Baby Aliens is another faggot I'd never fucking collab with. Can't stand that little ugly motherfucker. And they see that a lot of the stuff that they do is performative. They see that a lot of the stuff they do is just to farm for views and clickbait. And they don't like it. Then they take someone like myself, where they can tell that I'm genuine. They can have a good laugh when they watch my content. They can tell that I'm genuine, that I'm not on here solely to get views, that it's not necessarily about the views. View it as a business. Have you ever heard a businessman said, it's not about the money? The money's still important, because you need that money to pay for your bills. You need that money to feed your family. You need that money to buy nice things like that Lamborghini or that yacht or that mansion. Most importantly, you need that money to invest it back into the business to keep the business alive. It's the same thing with podcasts. It's not about the views. Yes, I need views because I could have the greatest podcast in the fucking world, but if no one knows about it, I'm not helping anybody. So yes, the views are important, and I'm appreciative of everyone who does view me and support me. However, it is not the most important thing. At the end of the day, I'm primarily doing this because I enjoy it, because I have a message to spread, because I believe in what I'm doing, not because I'm aura farming for clickbait and views. If I wanted to aura farm for clickbait and views, I would go and collaborate. I would go and collaborate with some ugly cunt motherfucker like Baby Alien and do a bunch of outlandish shit, or possibly even illegal shit, just to get views, just to feel important. I'm strongly against that. That's a core part of my brain, is that I'm strongly against that, and I call out those who do it. So if there's one lesson I would take away from this, number one is that all publicity is good publicity, which I touched upon before, because they saw my recent feud and it scared them off, right? And they thought that it would impact them negatively. However, that feud got me 200 followers in one day, meaning that if I'm getting more popularity because of this, or because of my content in general, if we were to collab, it would actually help them get more views, and the outcome of it would have been most likely positive. But secondly, them allowing the opinions of other people, or possible opinions of other people, them allowing that to dictate their success is actually holding them back. Because a big reason why I've managed to gain popularity, the reason why people like those podcasters have noticed my content, the reason why the algorithm is pushing my content, is because I don't give a flying crap what other people think about me. Because I dictate my own success and I don't care what other people think about me, that is why I've come as far as I have, and that is exactly why I'm going to keep growing from here. When you allow the opinions of other people to dictate your actions, you are a prisoner in their mind. In other words, you're their little prison bitch. So that's my overall opinion of it. I'm not saying this to shame them or to start a rivalry between them. I have a genuine respect for them. I wish them the best of luck. But I do think that that kind of outlook will ultimately hold them back. And once again, the whole internal versus external reputation, or in other words, your character versus your reputation. They might have a reputation of being great podcasters, whether it's now or in the future, but they have a character, at least from my perspective, of someone who doesn't fully do their research and know what they're getting into, or when they do, they're hesitant to be upfront and honest, and they're gonna flake last minute. Now, moving on to other subjects. Superhero movies often don't do well. Captain Marvel, Black Widow, She-Hulk, Wonder Woman 1984. And the reason for that is not because people don't like female superheroes. It's because people are tired of this feminism misandrist bullshit. Last year, they made a John Wick spin-off movie called Ballerina. It follows Eve McCarroll, who had a tragic childhood, and she's been trained to be an assassin since she was a child. Going towards end of the show, she goes on a mission to avenge her dead father and her family by destroying the cult that her father was from. And it was really well done. And people are comparing Ballerina to Black Widow, and they are saying that Ana de Armas should be the new Black Widow instead of Florence Pugh or Scarlett Johansson. So, we have a movie about a female who can take on 10 guys and win, who is an assassin, who is very skilled, and the movie made millions in the box office. The movie is loved by many. But wait a minute, I thought we all hated superheroes. I thought we were all supposed to be sexist and hate women who are strong and empowering. Let me break it down to you. Superheroes are super not because of their gender, but because of their superpowers or their skills. Black Widow, for example, is a very powerful assassin because she was trained since birth to be an assassin. And she's joined high-tech organizations like the Red Room, S.H.I.E.L.D., the Avengers. It had nothing to do with her being a woman or a man. She-Hulk is strong because she's a fucking Hulk. Captain Marvel is strong because she has the power of a fucking solar star or a whole solar system. Not because she's a woman. And the reason why people get so tired of this female superhero shit is because a lot of times you show a superhero who has superpowers or whatever, but then y'all like to shame that, like the superheroes, they like to shame men, and they like to claim that, oh, the reason why I'm strong is because I'm a woman. I'm doing this not because I want to help people, because I believe in what I'm doing, but because I need to show the world what a big, strong, powerful woman I am. We don't want none of that. It's bullshit. Ballerina did not have that propaganda. It didn't have that feministic bullshit. It didn't have any of that shit. Eve gets hurt. Eve struggles. Here's another comparison. Eve versus John Wick. There is a fight scene where John Wick and Eve fight. And Eve can't lay a finger on John, because John is the higher trained assassin. He's got 4 movies where he's been through a lot more. He's suffered. He lost his finger. He's been through a lot. And a big reason why the John Wick movies are so successful is because, John suffers too. In the last movie, he dies. It shows that even though he seems to be the boogeyman, La Baba Yaga, he can still suffer because he's still human. There's humanity in these movies, and that's what makes these movies so good. And Eve Macaro, she, being a skilled assassin, she still cannot take on the Baba Yaga. She-Hulk shows whatever her real identity is. She gets her power, she becomes She-Hulk, right? Then Bruce Banner, aka the original Hulk, who is her cousin, starts teaching her how to use those powers. And then suddenly, because she's a big, strong, powerful woman, she overpowers and becomes stronger than the actual Hulk. How does it make sense for the student to instantly surpass the teacher? I'll give you another example. This is why the Black Widow movie flopped. Because people don't hate Black Widow. People love Black Widow. But in Black Widow, keep in mind, Black Widow doesn't have any superpowers. She doesn't even wear any body armor like Iron Man. She's just a human with basic martial arts skills and tasers on her wrists. She can't take on a big threat like Thanos by herself. She's basically a street level fighter at most, and yeah, she's a great spy and she helps with the Avengers and whatnot. I'm not trying to downgrade her character, but Disney and Marvel tried to massively and unrealistically upgrade her character by making the Taskmaster her arch rival in her solo movie. In the comics, the Taskmaster is very powerful, primarily because he can copy other people's moves. Matter of fact, the Taskmaster is so powerful that because in the comics it's a male, not a female, but he is able to copy everyone else's ability, and he becomes an Avengers level threat. Keep that in mind. When something is an Avengers level threat, that means they need at least 6 superheroes. The only people in the MCU, or sorry, not necessarily the MCU, but in the comics, in the Marvel comics, that can successfully take down Taskmaster without breaking a sweat are Moon Knight and Deadpool. That's how powerful Taskmaster is, that no one can touch him. Not even Spider-Man can touch him. Then in the Black Widow movie, she beats him by herself. You take one of the 2 weakest Avengers, because the 2 weakest Avengers are Black Widow and Hawkeye. Spider-Man can't even beat Taskmaster. And Spider-Man is, I would say, much stronger and a much better fighter than Black Widow. Spider-Man is powerful enough that he eventually becomes an Avenger. And Black Widow beats her by herself. Additionally, there are also unrealistic scenes, for example, Natasha being in an explosion, falling off of a really tall skyscraper building and hitting her head multiple times on the way down, then finally landing on the ground, and she just stands up without breaking a sweat. She just basically walks off the pain. Let's get something straight. In Endgame, Natasha throws herself off a cliff and dies, but then in her own solo movie, she falls off of a building significantly higher than that cliff. Not only did she fall off the building, but she also hits her head on metal railings multiple times on the way down. Doesn't crack a skull, doesn't break any bones, nothing. She falls, and then she just gets up and walks it off. It's not realistic. It doesn't make any sense. How can you fall off a cliff and die, but fall off a building and survive? It doesn't make any sense, and that's why the movie flopped. The Ballerina shows that Ballerina still has threats that she cannot take down, such as John Wick. It shows that she's still human. It shows that she's still vulnerable. And most importantly, the reason why she's an assassin is because she's been trained to be. It's because of her skills that she hones into. She finds the weaknesses in her opponents and uses them to her advantage. She turns them into her strengths. I'm going to play a clip here because a big reason why these superhero movies flop all the time is specifically because they show women overpowering men, which doesn't make any sense. Traditionally speaking, the average man is going to be stronger than the average woman in terms of strength. In terms of strength alone, it is possible for a woman to beat a woman. I'm not saying it's impossible. If a woman is a better skilled fighter, it is possible to take down a stronger opponent. Several martial artists, especially Bruce Lee, have shown this before. If a woman has something to an advantage, for example, if she has a knife or a gun, and the guy does not have any weapons, she can use that to attack him and weaken him and then overpower him. If she stabs him in the eye or uses pepper spray to blind him and then attacks him, she now has the upper hand. Because if a man can't see, he can't fight. But in terms of strength alone, a woman is going to be significantly weaker than the average man. And so many of these Hollywood action movies show women overpowering men physically, literally picking them up and throwing them. It doesn't make sense. And Ballerina specifically addresses this problem. Let's take a listen. Stupid ads. Cute. See. Here it is. Here it is.
Mr. Strong, do you really believe that strength has anything to do with whether you win or lose? You will always be weaker. You will always be smaller and at a disadvantage. He is beating you because you are allowing him to define the terms of the contest. You want to win? Change the terms. Improvise, adapt, cheat. Lean into your strengths, not his. Fight like a girl.
So, the Ballerina acknowledges that Eve McCarroll is still your average-sized woman. It shows that she has to build up her strength by training, by practicing how to fight. She's also a ballerina, so she builds up her core strength by dancing on her tiptoes for hours on end, day after day after day. So that automatically makes her stronger. But then there's also training exercises, there's fighting exercises, there's things of that nature to show her getting stronger. That being said, it still shows that there are opponents that are stronger than her, primarily male opponents that are stronger than her, that are more skilled than her, that are more trained than her. So she has to improvise and use her brain and rely on other strengths rather than muscle mass to take down her opponents. That's why the film did so good. That's why people liked that film. That's why that film outperformed Black Widow and Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel and all this other feminist propaganda bullshit. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Thanks for listening. This is the Adonis Podcast.